you're a parent, please just close your eyes and visualize your child, a child you love so much, you cherish so much, coming up to you now and telling you they've been sexually abused. What do you feel right now? Anger, pain, hurt, betrayal, a whole mishmash of strong emotions that almost make you feel like strangling someone. Hello and welcome to my channel, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Sexual abuse is a topic that every parent has to really be very aware of. And as unpleasant as this scenario I have painted is, it's very important as a parent to go through this scenario and imagine how you would react and how are you supposed to react, so that if such a terrible thing ever happens, you'd be equipped to deal with it. Because when the deed has been done, it can't be made undone. But what can be done is to find ways of helping this child, to turn this child from a victim to a survivor, to teach this child to be able to have a normal life in future, to be able to deal with this pain. Because a sexual abuse is not just physical. It doesn't just damage the body. It damages the mind, the self-confidence. It damages so much more than just the body. So it's very important to know how to deal with it, because if you go about it the wrong way, you are increasing the damage the child has and not helping the child. So it's very important when your child comes to you and reveals that there has been an abuse, keep your emotions in check. Don't let the child see your anger, your pain, your frustration. It's normal that the child will expect you to show concern, but we really need to have our emotions at that moment in check, to allow the child to speak and to tell us what happened. So that's the first rule. Keep your emotions in check. Then allow the child to speak, because very often children have it difficult. It's difficult to come up to your mom and say, I've been abused. So most children, they would make some kind of indication. So you have to really have an open ear, because sometimes we're really busy and a child comes and tells you something, but because you are so busy or you don't have time, okay, yeah, just go. But whenever a child comes with any kind of story, oh, I don't like the way Uncle James hugs me, or I don't want to kiss Auntie, take your time, take that time out to find out what is really going on. Because very often, it's only with patience that the story will be revealed. So, watch out for the red flags, the indicators that an abuse might have taken place or is about to take place. Listen to your children and encourage them. Whether they are telling you about an abuse that has taken place or there are signals that is about to take place, send across to the child 2 messages. I believe you. and you are safe now. I believe you and you are safe now. The child has to know they are safe, because even after the abuse has taken place, the child is living in fear. Not just fear from the abuser, but also fear of people finding out, parents finding out what would happen. So, you are safe means not just you are safe from the abuser, but you are safe all round. You are safe from the abuser. You are safe from any repercussion. You are safe from anybody being angry with you. You are safe from anybody not believing you. You are safe from anybody judging you. The child has to be safe, not just from the abuser. And I believe you. The child has to know you believe them, because very often children, especially children that grow up in a strict environment, they don't come out with the truth and they hide it because they feel the parents are going to be so angry, or the parents would feel they are somehow to blame for it, or they are not telling the truth. So let them know, I believe you, this really happened to you. And also in that same light, let the child know that whatever happened to you, you are not to blame. This is very important too. You are not to blame, because often an abuser does not come with just threats. Very often they bribe the child, smile with the child, offer maybe biscuits or so. So it's very important that the child knows when you were abused, even especially, when you are abused by an adult, no matter what role you played as a child, you were abused, you have no blame. Even if you didn't cry out or you didn't protest, you are still the victim. You don't have blame for what happened. You are a beautiful child, you are a wonderful child. Nobody had the right to do that to you. Those are the messages and signals the child has to get along the way. You are beautiful and wonderful. You are not to blame. I believe you. You are safe. Now, when the child opens up to you, don't put too much pressure on the child to tell you everything. Keep asking the child to repeat yourself like over and over again, because this gives the impression like you don't believe the child. And it's difficult to talk about such an experience, or even sometimes to bring it all out at once. So please resist that temptation to ask too many questions or put too much pressure, because when the child tells you about this abuse, it has taken one very giant and, in fact, the most important step by breaking the silence. So that already in itself is a very big step. And you just have to know that some stories have to come out in bits and pieces. So don't flog it too much. Don't ask the child too many questions. Hug the child, let the child know that the child is safe. And then really make that child to be safe. If the abuse is from a family member or somebody in the home, you have to take immediate steps to ensure that that child is not exposed to that abuse again. Now, this is going to be very difficult because sometimes it leads to a marriage breakup or family ties being affected. But this is one hurdle that one has to take, because the child has got to be safe. The moment you don't put that child in a safe position, you are party to the abuse. So put the child in a safe situation. The child has got to be safe. And the next step to do is, if possible, seek professional help as soon as possible. Seek professional help. Consult an expert, a psychologist, somebody that is trained to deal with child abuse. Not your pastor or your priest or your prophet or your mentor. Please seek professional help. You can confide in your pastor or mentor or someone you trust for your own healing, but not for the healing of the child. You need professional help. So if you are in a place or in a situation that you can afford or you have access to professional help, seek professional help. Seek the child welfare authorities up so that they can help you on this difficult journey with expertise advice. Because a lot of lay people would tell you a lot of things, but all those things are not necessarily in the interest of the child. So please seek professional help. I'll keep drumming it so that the interest of that child and what is best for that child will be secured. And after you have sought professional help, you can now go about the business of getting the culprits to face the law for what they have done. And this too is a very sensitive topic, because especially in certain countries or cultures, people would rather keep silent, would rather not report the culprit because they want to protect the child. They are scared of the stigma. So I can't really, and we shouldn't really, condemn anybody who takes that decision. And this again is something that a decision you have to take with the help of professionals to know what steps should I take now. Because even if you decide to go to the police and press charges, remember, you mustn't do it immediately on that day. You can still afford to wait a little bit to be really sure of how to take the action. And also to be sure that when you go through this process of going to the police and every other authority to report, be very sure that you have enough backup also for the child, psychologically and emotionally. Because when the child is being questioned, especially like in certain countries like Africa, the child will be put on an inquisition. The person that committed the crime will try to paint the child and even the family of the child as being irresponsible. If there were older children involved, their parents too would get involved. So please don't just get up and jump to the police or to the authorities immediately. First, secure that the child has that professional backup to help you and the child, to advise you and the child on how you can go into this legal battle with the police, with the authorities, while still having professional backup. This professional backup will advise you and stand to you to know how can this child be examined, under what conditions should a child be asked questions, how do you protect the child's image. So please, before just rushing off to police, authorities, anywhere, if possible, seek backup and take advice from professionals. Now, something else parents really have to think about is, now that this has happened, how much exposure can I allow? Now, this topic is very, very important. This aspect is so important because especially today with social media, people seem to just, jump on social media, make live videos, and talk about almost everything. Not just social media, your friends, your neighbors, the school. How much exposure is allowed? This is why it's also important to have professional advice, because you can come up with a story, you can expose your child and decide to tell people, yes, my child was sexually abused. You may go to social media with your story, my child was sexually abused. 99.5 or even 99.9% of the people would hail you on, yeah, what courage, thank you for exposing the truth. But the reality is, the exposure and the stigma is on your child and your family and not on them. And there's something about societies where such a thing is a stigma. Remember now, your child, willingly or unwillingly, has had a sexual exposure. Now, imagine your child going to visit all these people hailing you on, encouraging you. Imagine your child going to visit them to play with their own children. Do you think they would allow it? They wouldn't want that company for their children, because they say your child might corrupt their children, because your child has now been exposed to something that other children are not exposed to. And it's really true that very often children that are, or adults that abuse children, were themselves abused. So it's kind of like following a circle. If you come to a school and see older children abusing younger children, there's a tendency, a great likelihood that they themselves were abused when they were younger, and now it's their turn to abuse. So be very careful about the exposure. In the interest of your child, discuss this with a professional. The world must not see your child. The world must not hear your child's story. Even if there is a case in court with children, I'm a lawyer, the public is not allowed into the court when a child is giving evidence, or when children are on trial, or teenagers, youths. So why would you, out of your anger, your pain, expose your child publicly, media, even expose your child's body, get your children or your child to talk about that experience publicly? All these stories that go viral, they can't be erased, they are there. And this is something that will keep affecting the child later on. As a parent, yes, maybe you were trying to help your child, but you've increased the damage, you've increased the pain for the child. Please be well advised, No matter your anger, your pain, your quest for vengeance, don't, hurt your child more in seeking vengeance. The damage has been done, and those guilty should be made to pay, not your child. Your child shouldn't be made to pay for the damage that has been done to them. It's like getting the victim to pay for a crime committed by someone else. So please don't expose your child in such a case. Now, after the exposure, one thing is for certain, all hell is going to break loose. So it's very important that the child has a safe haven, especially at home. The child has got to be safe, not just safe from the abuser or from critic or questions, but your child has got to be safe from the family. The child has got to be safe from you. What do I mean by this? Sometimes it will be unavoidable. Maybe the husband would have to leave, the woman would have to take the child away, or the other way around, or someone would have to leave the family, a help or a relation. So those things can't be avoided. But as much as possible, avoid the child knowing that there's crisis in the family. If you start going around yelling, I'm going to kill somebody, having loud conversations on the phone or with your husband or wife, the child will start feeling a lot of insecurity and fear. If there are other kids, they will even blame the child. Look, now you are responsible for all the trouble in the house. You are responsible for mommy always crying or dad always angry, for all the problem with the police. So it's very important that we hold ourselves in check so that the child does not develop a feeling of guilt. This also is important for the other children in the house, because the way you handle the situation is going to affect the child either negatively or positively. Not just that. Remember too that if you make a lot of noise about it, if there are a lot of heated discussions, exposure in the internet to neighbors, friends, and everything, any other child out there that has been abused would just get one message: oh, thank God I never spoke about my own abuse, and I'm never going to speak about it. So part of keeping the child safe is keeping the child safe from our anger and our pain and that of other members around us. So don't let the child be affected by adult problems. Keep the child safe. And by so doing, you are also keeping other children in the family safe. And other abused children out there would have the courage to speak up about their abuse. If they see the way it works if they are aware the way it worked out in your family, the child was safe, protected, and everything, it would encourage them to come out and tell their own parents about their own abuse. And finally, I would like to look at the long-term goals when a child has been abused. The long-term goal is the process of healing. Healing physically, mentally, emotionally. The aim is to turn the victim into a survivor. No more feeling I was hurt, I'm to blame, I'm ashamed. But to get to that stage, to be able to believe somebody or some people did something terrible to me, I wasn't to blame, it's not my fault, and despite that, I'm still beautiful, I'm still clean, I'm still worthy, and I still have a bright future. So it's very important for parents to help their children along the way. No amount of therapy, no amount of mentoring is going to help if we as parents don't actively send this message across to our child every moment, every day. Don't ever forget what happened to your child and the message to send across. Because it could be that maybe a girl is abused sexually at 7 years. Then maybe at 15, when she starts, dressing up or trying to go out or something, you'd get angry and say, yeah, that's how when you were young. Such things should never, ever happen. Throughout that child growing up, no amount of anger, pain should ever tempt us or bring us into a situation when we for 1 minute let the child believe they were to blame for what happened. They are guilty, they are unclean, or they are not worthy. So please, as parents, remember, the healing of your child is long-term. It's going to go right into adulthood. Even as an adult, there will be triggers. Because when you've made such a terrible experience, something can happen later on in your life to trigger you. A girl that may have been abused at 5 may experience triggers when she's pregnant with her own child. So please remember, it's a long-term healing, a long-term period of showing this child growing into a teenager, an adult, you are loved, you are worthy, you are clean. Don't ever be a trigger in the life of your child.